Yes.
Dim the lights, let go of the day, and slip into something a little more honest. You're listening to Why Is It So Hard with Lizzie and Nash, where things get deep, raw, and just a little dangerous.
Welcome to episode 20 of Why Is It So Hard with Lizzie and Nash. We have been gone a while. We're back. Of course, now that summer's just about over. So let's get going. All right. I have a theory about dating apps.
Every time you start a sentence with, I have a theory about dating apps, somebody's feelings get hurt.
Come on now, I stand by it. It's not like I do that all the time. But I think dating apps turn completely normal, functional human beings into panicking contestants on a freaking game show. Nobody actually invited them to join. The second you match with somebody, this invisible high-stakes timer starts ticking inside your head. You feel like you have to say something legendary. You have to be, hilarious. You have to lock down their phone number before 5 other people message them. You have to make sure they know you're attracted to them. And somewhere in that entire frantic calculation, people completely forget that the original goal was just figuring out if you like talking to the person sitting on the other side of the screen.
And that's the exact garbage I see all the time. Nobody trusts a conversation to just move at human pace anymore. It's this manic, desperate rush to force it somewhere else immediately. You match, and within 30 seconds, they want to move it off the app. They want nude photos, or they turn the chat explicitly sexual. And I'm sitting there looking at my phone thinking, dude, I haven't even decided if I like your humor yet. I don't even know if you can construct a compound sentence. And look, I'm not asking anyone to spend 3 weeks discussing the weather or asking me what my favorite color is.
Pink.
I hate boring small talk as much as the next person, but I want that quick electric window where you get a baseline feel for somebody. Do I laugh when their name pops up? Are they actually curious about me? Or are they just talking at a wall? Do I actually want to hear what they have to say tomorrow? People are skipping that entire phase.
Because they think that part is redundant. They think, we matched. You saw my pictures, I saw yours. The physical evaluation is complete, so let's get to the main event.
That's picture attraction. That's not chemistry. I've matched with women where I looked at their profile and thought, she is freaking hot. And 2 minutes into messaging, I was completely checked out. Not because she said something horrible, but because there was zero spark. Just dry, hollow, mechanical back and forth. Then I've had the exact opposite happen. Someone who might not be my immediate physical type, whatever hell that even means. And after 10 minutes of banter, I am completely hooked. She's sharp, she's witty, she's confident without posturing. Suddenly, I'm looking at her photos through a totally different lens.
Yeah, because chemistry isn't a static JPEG.
Going 0 to 60 sexually in message number 2 actually destroys your own odds. You already had my attention. You got the match. You didn't need to perform a circus act. But instead of letting the heat build naturally, you just proved you can't read a room.
Which, to be fair, is tricky through a piece of glass.
Fair enough.
I'm not excusing the creeps, but text is weird. You can't hear tone, you can't see facial expressions, and playful sarcasm looks aggressive on a screen if you don't know the person. So part of this whole dynamic is giving people a tiny bit of grace when they stumble out of the gate.
I agree. I don't want to spend an hour sitting here dunking on everyone who's ever flirted awkwardly. God knows I've landed flat on my face trying to be smooth.
I have receipts and video footage.
Keep your files to yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
But look, we've all misread a vibe or said something that sounded way sexier in our head than it did on screen. That's just being human. What pisses me off isn't an awkward line. It's when someone gets a clear signal that the other person isn't on the same page and they just plow right through it anyway.
Awkward is fine. Steamrolling is the problem.
You hit it right there.
Cool. Episode over. Good talk.
We have 58 minutes left, genius.
Damn it.
Strap in. Before we get too far into this, let's do our usual disclaimer. We are not your therapist. We are not your relationship coaches. We aren't doctors, attorneys, or certified self-help gurus. We're just two married weirdos talking openly about sex, ethical non-monogamy, kink, boundaries, and the absurd choices people make when you hand them a dating profile and unrestricted access to a keyboard.
Technology really believed in humanity. It absolutely should not have.
What works for us might not work for your life. Non-monogamy, swinging, polyamory, it all looks completely different depending on who's running the show. There's no holy grail playbook here.
But there are a few baseline rules that shouldn't die just because you change your relationship structure. Know what you're consenting to, say what you actually mean, and if someone tells you they're uncomfortable, do not argue with them.
Being non-monogamous doesn't mean someone owes you a filth fest in their DMs. Being a swinger doesn't mean someone wants to fuck everyone in the room. Being bisexual doesn't mean a woman is an instant accessory for you and your spouse. And matching with someone on an app means you unlock the conversation. Nothing more.
Labels give you context. They do not give you access.
That might be the most important thing we say today. So if you hear yourself in something we talk about on this show, don't get defensive. Take the note, fix your approach, and move smarter.
Which is the annoying reality of growing up.
Inconvenient as hell.
Painful, really.
Now, let's responsibly roast dating apps. Today, we're tearing into dating apps, sexual impatience, E&M dynamics, and why everybody seems to be in such a desperate, chaotic rush to skip the best part of flirting. Nash, I want you to take the mic on this first part because you brought up something in the open that I want to dig into. You talked about the panic guys feel on the apps, this pressure to stand out immediately, because when I open my app, I just see messages that make me roll my eyes and scratch my head. I'm sitting there wondering what thought process led you to believe this was going to work. But you're saying there's an entire ecosystem of panic happening on the male side before that message even gets sent.
It's an absolute psychological pressure cooker, especially for average guys on mainstream apps. A lot of mainstream apps skew heavily male, so plenty of average guys can swipe for days or weeks and get very few matches. So when a match finally pops up, especially with a woman he's genuinely attracted to, his brain instantly goes into code red. The stakes feel enormous. He's thinking, this is my one shot this week. And that's where the bad advice takes over. Because if you're a guy looking for help on how to navigate dating apps, a huge amount of the content aimed at you is hyper-strategic garbage. You've got self-proclaimed pickup gurus telling you that if you say, hey, how's your week going? You're an idiot who's going to get buried in her inbox. You've got people telling you that women hate interview questions, so don't ask about her job or her dog. You've got other guys telling you that if you're too nice or polite, you're walking straight into the friend zone. So you have to establish sexual tension immediately in message number 2 or 3. So this guy sits there staring at his phone, sweating over his screen. He isn't thinking, how do I connect with this human being? He's thinking, how do I construct a line that passes through her mental spam filter before she swipes away? He treats the message like a puzzle or an algorithm. And the second you treat human communication like a math equation, you stop sounding like a person. You sound like a marketing bot or a guy trying way too hard to play a character.
That actually explains a lot, because when you're on the receiving end, it reads like a canned line. You open the app and read a message that feels totally disconnected from anything on your profile or anything normal, and you think you copy-pasted this exact same sentence to 12 other women tonight.
And he probably did, because the bad advice tells him it's a numbers game. Send enough high-impact openers, eventually something lands. What they don't tell him is that those openers sound completely bizarre to women who just wanted a normal conversation.
And it completely backfires.
Yes.
Because if a guy sends me a message that feels like a calculated line, I don't feel intrigued. I feel evaluated. I feel like I'm standing at the end of a conveyor belt. And standing out is actually ridiculously simple. You don't need a mind-blowing, hilarious, world-class opener. I don't need you to write a dissertation on my bio, but if you mention something specific from my pictures, like a band shirt I'm wearing or a spot in the background or a weird joke I put in my bio, I notice immediately. It tells me, oh, you actually looked at me for 3 seconds before you typed.
It takes all the pressure off. A good opener doesn't need to win an award. It just needs to give the other person something easy to respond to. It leaves a door cracked open so she can walk through it without having to do the heavy lifting.
Right? And honestly, even a basic opener isn't a federal crime if the conversation actually flows after it. My real issue is when I feel like I'm pulling teeth just to get a complete sentence back. You know those chats where you're carrying the entire weight of a human interaction on your back?
What do you do for fun?
It's stuff.
What kind of music are you into?
A little bit of everything.
Great. Phenomenal.
Got any travel plans this year?
Maybe.
I feel like a detective trying to break a suspect in an interrogation room. Give me something to work with. If I ask what music you like and you say, honestly, it's all over the place, but I've been playing this one live album on repeat all week. Boom, we're moving. I can ask about the band. You mentioned seeing them in Chicago. Now we're talking about crazy weekend trips, bad road trip food, and terrible venues. That's how real conversation wander.
And the wandering is where the heat actually lives. That's where you catch a vibe.
Yes, but everybody is so obsessively locked on the finish line. Are we hooking up? Are we meeting? Are we dating? Fuck, can we just enjoy finding out if we even like each other's minds first?
That brings up another huge layer of this, the whole issue of response time and text anxiety. I want to stay on the sender's side for a second here because this is where so many decent people lose their freaking minds.
Yep.
Smartphones have convinced everybody that availability equals obligation. 20 years ago, if you called someone's landline and they weren't home, you hung up and thought, oh, they're out doing something. You didn't spiral. Now, because everybody has a mini computer glued to their palm 24/7, if a text sits on red or sits unanswered for 2 hours, the sender's brain starts spinning a complete horror movie. And again, if you're a guy reading online dating advice, you've been told all these weird psychological rules. Like, if she takes 4 hours to reply, she's testing your interest. Or, if her response time slows down, she's talking to 3 other guys who are more attractive than you. Or, she's losing interest, so you need to re-engage her with something high energy. So, he sits there staring at his phone. The anxiety builds. 10 minutes feels like 10 hours. He sees that she was active on the app, or he sees the little read confirmation, and instead of taking a deep breath and putting his phone in another room, he lets his insecurity drive the bus. He sends the follow-up text. Then another one.
Ah, the escalation. It's a dark art form.
It's a tragic multi-act play. Act 1. Hey, hope your day is going good. Act 2, 40 minutes later, guess you're super busy today, haha. Act 3, 2 hours later, listen, if you're not interested, you can just say so. I don't like mind games. Oh, and wait for it, Act 4, at midnight. You're actually not even that attractive anyway. Good luck out there. And on her end, what was actually happening? She was at her nephew's birthday party or driving on the highway or sitting on her couch watching a movie without her phone in her hand.
I am almost always in Target in these scenarios. Literally, I'm standing in aisle 7 comparing shampoo bottles, or I'm cooking dinner, or I'm sitting right next to you on the couch and I just don't feel like typing out a paragraph on a glass screen right this second. Not responding instantly doesn't mean I hate you. It doesn't mean I'm playing a game. Sometimes I see a text and think, oh, that's a cool question. I want to give a real answer when I sit down later with a glass of wine. That's actually a sign of interest. But because they couldn't handle 2 hours of silence, they set their own house on fire.
Yeah, they dumped themselves. They had a full relationship, a massive communication crisis, and a bitter divorce while you were choosing between lavender and citrus body wash.
And the sad part is, I might have actually really liked their first few messages, but now they've shown me that if I don't provide constant, immediate emotional reassurance, they're going to turn the anxiety into my problem. And I don't have the bandwidth to manage an adult's insecurities before I've even met them for coffee. And before anybody sitting at home thinks this is strictly a guy thing, absolutely not. I've experienced the exact same kind of pressure from women on apps too. Let me give you a version of something I've experienced that fits this perfectly. A while back, I matched with a woman on one of the apps. Let's call her Kat.
Yeah. Good.
And honestly, I was excited about this one. Her profile was great. She was gorgeous. But more importantly, she actually seemed interesting. She had a sense of humor in her bio. We had a few things in common. And when we started talking, it didn't feel like work. You know how sometimes you're messaging somebody and you're constantly trying to think of the next thing to say? This wasn't that. The conversation just moved.
Which is rare enough on dating apps that you immediately notice it.
Yes. We started talking on a Tuesday, and by Wednesday night, I was thinking, okay, I really like this woman's energy. We were joking around, talking about music, talking about dating women, just normal stuff. There was definitely some flirting, but it was that good kind where neither one was beating the other one over the head with it. She'd say something a little flirty, I'd give it back. It felt easy. And honestly, I was already thinking I'd absolutely meet her for a drink.
So she was doing everything right.
Yes, pretty much. Then Thursday happened. And Thursday for me was just one of those days where work took over everything. Back-to-back stuff. Phone mostly sitting off to the side. I'm barely looking at anything personal. She sends me a message that morning. Good morning, beautiful. Hope your day starts off easy. Cute. I liked it. I saw it, smiled, and thought, I'll answer her when I get a second. Then I didn't get a second. A few hours later,
a few moments later,
she says, busy day. Still totally fine. I'm thinking, yep, very. But I still can't really stop and talk. Then later that afternoon, I get, did I do something?
Uh-oh.
And that one changed the feeling a little. Not enough that I was done. I just thought, okay, she's probably nervous. I'll explain when I get out of here.
That's reasonable.
Then another message comes in. You were really talkative yesterday, so this feels weird. And now I'm starting to feel pressure because nothing happened. We didn't have a fight. She didn't offend me. I didn't suddenly decide I wasn't interested. I was working. But now I'm realizing that while I've been living my normal Thursday, she's apparently been having an entirely different experience of our relationship in her head.
Which is the part people forget. Silence doesn't feel neutral when you're anxious. You start filling it with explanations.
Right? And I actually had sympathy for that at first because I've done that too. Somebody you like gets quiet and your brain immediately wants to go, did I say something stupid? That's human. But then she sent another message before I was done with work. I just really don't like mixed signals. If you're interested, I'd rather you act interested. And that's where I felt myself pull back because now it's not just anxiety anymore. Now I'm just being assigned a behavior. I'm being told what interest is supposed to look like after we've been talking for what, 2 days?
And according to her, interest apparently means availability.
That's exactly what bothered me because I was interested. If she just let that day happen, I probably would have messaged her that evening, apologized for the crazy day, and asked when she was free. Instead, I got to the end of the workday already feeling like I was in trouble with somebody I hadn't even met yet. So I finally messaged her and said, hey, today was genuinely crazy and I wasn't ignoring you, but I need a little more breathing room than this, especially this early. To her credit, she didn't become nasty. She basically said that consistent communication was really important to her and that if she was interested in somebody, she made time to respond.
Because now you knew this wasn't necessarily somebody behaving horribly. You just had very different expectations.
Exactly. She wasn't wrong for wanting frequent communication, and I'm not wrong for needing more breathing room. We were just going to make each other crazy.
That's compatibility.
It is. And I hadn't even bought her a drink yet, and I already felt felt like I was disappointing her.
And that fits the whole subject of this episode. It isn't just people getting sexually intense too fast, it's people creating intimacy, expectations, and access before the relationship has actually earned any of it.
Yes, the pressure can be sexual, but it can also be emotional. Sometimes the thing that makes you back away isn't somebody saying something filthy. It's somebody acting like you already owe them relationship level attention when you're still figuring out whether you want a first date.
I think you hit on something massive there. This whole concept of on-demand access. We live in a culture where almost everything else in life has become on demand. You want a movie? You stream it. You want dinner? It shows up 20 minutes later. You want something from Amazon?
It's on your porch before you've emotionally processed buying it.
Exactly. Somehow we started bringing that same consumer expectation into relationships. You match with somebody and suddenly you expect instant replies, instant attention, instant access. And when it stops for 6 hours, you start acting like something broke. And what gets completely lost in that mindset is the magic of tension and mystery. When you demand instant access to someone's time, attention, and body right out of the gate, you're not building intimacy. You're consuming it. You're burning up all the oxygen in the room before the fire even has a chance to catch. And for a lot of people, attraction actually needs a little space to breathe. That gap where you're wondering about somebody, waiting for the next text, looking forward to seeing their name pop up, that's part of what builds the tension. When you eliminate the gap by demanding immediate access, you kill the exact same thing that makes flirting fun in the first place.
That is spot on. You're replacing curiosity with consumption.
Exactly. And then people wonder why dating feels so hollow and exhausting. You can't fast forward human chemistry. Now, let me play devil's advocate on the speed thing for a minute, though, because there's another side to this. There's a whole group of people out there who genuinely hate texting. They don't want a pen pal. They feel like spending 3 weeks exchanging text messages creates this artificial, idealized fantasy version of a person in your head that almost never survives contact with reality. I actually respect that perspective too.
Moving fast isn't inherently bad. People misunderstand this all the time when we talk about pacing. There isn't some mandatory 7-day cooling off period required by law. If two people match, both hate texting, and within 5 messages, one says, "Hey, I hate typing on glass. Want to grab a quick coffee or cocktail tomorrow night?" And the other says, "Thank God, yes." Then go. Do it.
Because digital chemistry and physical chemistry are two completely different species.
Completely. You can have electric, hilarious text banter with someone for 2 weeks, show up at the bar, sit down, and within 30 seconds realize there is zero physical vibe. None. Not because anybody lied in their pictures, but because voice tone, posture, smell, eye contact, and natural energy matter. And if you've spent a month building up this massive romantic storyline in your head via text, that real life letdown feels crushing. So the problem isn't moving fast. The problem is where one person is setting the pace and dragging the other person along, whether they like it or not.
Alignment versus pressure.
And pressure isn't always some guy being overly aggressive or hostile. Sometimes it's subtle. It's those little passive-aggressive nudges. "Aw, don't be shy. Come on, it's just a drink. Live a little. We're both grown adults here." Those sentences seem harmless on the surface, but what you're actually communicating is your boundary or your preferred pace is inconvenient to me, so I need you to override it to make me comfortable.
Right? A guy thinks he's being encouraging. "Don't be shy. You're safe with me." But what she hears is, "I don't actually care what you felt comfortable doing. I'm going to push anyway."
Intent does not erase impact. And look, if you make a mistake and push a little too hard, you don't need to spiral or launch into a massive dramatic apology either. If someone says, "Hey, that's a little faster than I like to move," all you have to say is, "Totally fair. My bad. Let's stick here for a bit." Done. Clean. Mature. You just proved you can take feedback without throwing a fit.
Which brings us into the whole lifestyle and sex positive space, because this is where things get even more chaotic. When people step out of environments where sex wasn't talked about openly and enter non-monogamous, swinging, or kinky spaces, a lot of newcomers suffer from total brain break. They see people discussing desires, kinks, and non-traditional setups with total freedom. And they make the stupid assumption that openness equals universal availability.
They think because the closet door is open, that means there are no walls anywhere in the house. To me, being sex positive doesn't mean my door is unlocked for whoever wants to walk in. It just means I get to own my sexuality without being ashamed of it. And I get to decide what I want, when I want it, and who I want it with.
Yes.
I can talk about sex publicly on this podcast, or discuss E&M dynamics, or talk about toys and play with total confidence because I've chosen this platform and this context. This is not an open invitation for a stranger to drop in my DMs talking to me like we're mid-foreplay. You bought a ticket to listen to the show. You didn't buy access to my personal sex life.
Kink gets hit especially hard with this on apps. A woman puts submissive or lists a kink on a profile like Field or OkCupid, and guys instantly start messaging her as if they're her dominant owner. No greeting, no rapport, just straight up giving orders or making explicit demands in message number 1.
Oh, it makes my blood boil. Submission is a gift that is earned through deep trust, mutual safety, and explicit negotiation. It is not public utility. You do not get to step into a dominant role with a stranger just because she disclosed an interest in her bio. When somebody comes at me like that in an E&M space, my first thought usually is, okay, either you're brand new, you haven't done much work around this, or there's something about your situation I don't know yet. Because boundaries and consent are supposed to be the whole damn foundation of this.
Same with bisexuality. Bisexual women on dating apps get treated like they're an attraction at an amusement park.
People hear bisexual woman and their brain instantly translates it to awesome. She wants to be the third in my marriage. She loves threesomes and she's attracted to every human on earth.
It just means her potential pool of options includes more than one gender.
A wider pool of people I am probably not interested in. Equal opportunity rejection. But seriously, couples hunting for a unicorn assume every bi woman on an app is dying to jump in their bed to fix their marriage or spice up their weekend. Look, there are bisexual women who genuinely love dating couples, love threesomes, and actively seek that out. Great, power to them. But bisexuality on its own doesn't tell you what she wants. It just tells you who she is capable of being attracted to.
Which, again, comes back to reading the bio. If a woman explicitly writes on her profile that she is only interested in dating women individually, and a couple messages her saying, hey, cutie, me and my husband love your pictures, you've instantly announced that your desires matter more than her literacy.
Instant block. You failed the entry exam.
On the flip side of that, dating women as a woman on apps has the exact opposite problem. Nobody moves at all. It's like watching two people stand at a freaking doorway bowing to each other for 4 weeks saying, after you, no, after you, after you, no, after you.
It is painful. It is an absolute nightmare sometimes. Two women can match, exchange paragraphs of deeply thoughtful, gorgeous messaging, compliment each other's outfits, talk about their favorite books, plan hypothetical coffee dates, and after 3 weeks of continuous contact, both of them are calling their best friends asking, do you think she likes me or is she just being friendly?
It is wild to watch this from the sidelines.
Because women are conditioned to be polite and compliment each other naturally. If a woman messages me and says, your smile in that third picture is breathtaking, I have to sit there with a magnifying glass trying to decode the subtext. Is that you look stunning, fellow woman? Or is that I want to take you out and kiss you against your car? Then she says, we should totally hang out sometime. Is this a date? Are we getting drinks? Are we opening a mid-century modern antique shop in Vermont? What are the logistics here?
Then you end up kissing at the end of the night.
Still ambiguous, very polite. Great friendship gesture. I'm exaggerating, but only a little, which is why I have so much respect for women on apps who are unapologetically, clearly direct. Tell me what you want. I was really hoping we'd match. I think you're stunning and I'd love to take you on a real date. Boom, clear, confident, hot, and nobody is left guessing whether we're starting a book club or going on a date.
So you're not asking people to hide their attraction. You're asking them to stop being vague.
Exactly. Be precise. I find you really attractive. Simple. I love your energy. honest, that gives the other person space to step forward if they feel it too. If she says, I was hoping we'd match, and I say, trust me, I was hoping too, now the game is on. Now we can flirt, push the envelope a little, and build actual heat together.
Flirting with somebody instead of at somebody.
It's a game of catch, not throwing tennis balls at someone's head while they're trying to read.
Ouch. Now, I want to spend some real time on a distinction that trips up so many people, especially guys trying to do the right thing on apps. The difference between sexual compatibility matters to me versus I'm going to test your sexual boundaries immediately. Because a lot of guys hear us talk about this and they get defensive. They say, look, sex is a huge deal for me in a relationship. I don't want to waste 3 weeks talking to someone only to find out we have zero sexual compatibility or she hates talking about sex. Why shouldn't I bring it up early? And my answer to that is this. Wanting sexual compatibility is completely valid. It's smart. Nobody wants to end up in a relationship dynamic where your physical desires are completely misaligned. But there is a massive difference between discussing compatibility as a topic and forcing someone into an intimate scenario they didn't sign up for.
And that's the distinction people keep missing. If you bring up sex by dropping an explicit comment about my body or asking me a graphic personal question about what I do in bed in message number 2, you aren't testing compatibility. You are forcing me to participate in a sexual fantasy without my consent. You're asking me to perform for you before we've established a single shred of trust.
Exactly. It's about context. If you want to know if someone is open to sexual conversations, you ask about their communication style, not their personal sexual menu. You can say, hey, I'm someone who values open communication about sex and physical intimacy in relationships. How do you feel about talking through that kind of stuff as we get to know each other? Look at what that sentence does. It states your value, it shows maturity, and it gives her complete agency to say, I love talking about that up front, or I'm open to it once we meet in person, or even that's not really how I operate. Now you have actual high-quality data about compatibility without making her feel cornered.
I would respect the hell out of a message like that because it shows you have emotional intelligence. You aren't using sexual language as a blunt instrument to see if you can get a quick thrill. You're actually checking for alignment. And asking doesn't kill the mood. I hate this myth that asking for consent or checking in on boundaries makes things clinical or boring. People act like consent language requires bringing a clipboard and a legal team to the bar.
Please initial paragraph 4 before I tell you your dress looks incredible.
No, asking is foreplay when you do it right. Can I tell you what I was thinking when I saw that picture? That is sexy. Now my curiosity is piqued. I get to say, depends on how dangerous it is, or tell me. Now we're both playing the game. Are you okay if I flirt with you a little harder? That is confident, respectful, and smooth as hell. You're building anticipation while keeping your hand on the wheel together.
And if she sets a small boundary in response to that, that is your golden opportunity to show who you actually are. If she says, I'd rather stay on the app for a little bit before giving out my number, or I like to save spicy talk after we've had a drink, that is not rejection. And honestly, that little moment tells her a lot about you. If you reply, totally respect that, take your time, that actually helps build trust. You just showed her you can hear a boundary without making it a whole thing.
But if you start negotiating, why? It's just a phone number. What are you afraid of? You just blew your own spot. Because now I know that your desire for convenience overrides my comfort every single time.
Which brings us right back to my favorite mental framework, the coffee shop test.
Bring back the blueberry muffin woman.
She is the patron saint of this podcast. Look, picture the person you're messaging sitting directly across from you at a small table in a cozy, crowded coffee shop. You just met 10 minutes ago. She's sitting there drinking a latte, maybe eating a blueberry muffin. Would you look her dead in the eye and say out loud the exact sentence you're typing into your phone right now with the barista standing only 3 feet away?
Some guys would, which points to a much deeper psychiatric situation.
True. But for most people, that mental visual grounds you immediately. It snaps you out of screen brain. It reminds you that there is a living, breathing human being on the receiving end of that text. Not an avatar, not a character in a game, and not an automated chat script. When you're swiping through 50 profiles on your couch, it's easy to detach. But that person replying to you might be at work, or picking up their kids, or standing in Target trying to pick out shampoo.
While eating a muffin.
She needed the carbs. It was a tough morning.
You are never going to let that muffin go.
Never. But while we're talking about things people send without thinking, we have to address the king of all app mistakes, unsolicited photos.
Who is this working for? Seriously, I want to meet the person who conducted the focus group on this. Where is the demographic of women standing around saying, God, I really hope the guy I matched with 20 minutes ago sends me a surprise close-up of his dick while I'm at work?
What the hell? Look, it worked back one time in 2008, and guys have been banking on it ever since.
If you are already having a mutual, explicit, spicy conversation and both of you are actively flirting and you say, want to see what I'm doing? Or can I send you something? And she says, yes. Awesome. Knock yourself out. You're consenting adults having fun, but dropping explicit photos unprompted into a chat is just weird, lazy behavior.
Guys think it's visual flirting. They think, look how attracted to you I am.
But wouldn't you rather know she actually wants to look at it first? The ask itself creates tension. I really want to show you what I'm thinking about right now. Creates suspense. Dropping it cold just makes her hit the block button and show her group chat. You ruined the whole build-up.
Because modern dating culture has completely murdered anticipation. Everything on apps is instantaneous. Matches, read receipts, explicit photos, GPS locations. People treat waiting like a system error instead of part of the thrill.
And real anticipation is incredibly erotic. Dropping a slightly provocative, clever text, laying your phone face down on the table, and letting the tension simmer while you go about your afternoon, that's where the rush lives. When their name pops up on my screen 2 hours later with a sharp reply, my brain gets that hit of real chemistry. You can't force that by sending 6 texts in a row.
You're right, it takes 7. Constant messaging also creates this fake manufactured intimacy that crumbles the second you meet. If you text someone nonstop for 5 days straight, you exchange a massive amount of personal data. It feels like you've known them for months, but you don't. You know their curated text persona.
People mistake intensity for connection all the time. You talk for 72 hours and suddenly it's, I've never felt this kind of bond with anyone. Slow down. You don't even know if he chews with his mouth open yet. You don't know if she's rude to bartenders. You don't know how he acts when he's stressed or stuck in traffic. Enjoy the excitement, the butterflies, checking your phone, picking out your outfit for the first date. That's the fun part. But don't mistake initial hype for real knowledge. Human brains love to fill in empty blanks with ideal fantasies. He likes dogs and horror movies. Obviously my soulmate. Meanwhile, he might be an emotional ghost who hasn't processed a feeling since 2018. Real trust requires observing consistency over time.
And I think that's part of why some people go sexual so fast. Sexual rejection hurts the ego, but you can brush it off. She just wasn't in the mood for that kind of chat. But letting someone actually see who you are, opening up about your real life for 3 weeks, and then having them say, I just don't feel a spark, that hits deep. Some people use hypersexuality as armor. They play the bold, confident flirt because saying, I actually really like you and I'm a little nervous feels terrifying. Emotional nudity is way scarier than physical nudity.
Every single time. And non-monogamy exposes that instantly. People looking into E&M from the outside think it's endless, wild sexual freedom. Then you get into it and realize 80% of the lifestyle is emotional processing, boundary check-ins, and managing shared Google calendars.
Nothing gets the blood pumping quite like cross-referencing availability for Thursday the 14th 14th between 7 and 9:30 p.m.
Pure erotic passion. But seriously, E&M forces you to be brutally honest about jealousy, insecurity, time management, and desires. If you can't have an honest, unsexy conversation about boundaries on an app, you are going to implode the second real dynamics enter the picture.
Let's stay on that for a second, because this is where dating app behavior directly predicts how someone is going to handle a real relationship ecosystem. Think about it. If somebody can't handle you saying, hey, I can't text tonight because Nash and I are having a date night, or I'm spending time with my spouse this evening, that's not just a tiny dating app annoyance. That is a massive glowing red flag. That's somebody who is going to struggle immensely with the actual reality of non-monogamy. Because non-monogamy means you are dating a person who already has existing commitments, existing partners, and limited bandwidth. If they can't respect a boundary when it's as simple as an unread text message, how are they going to handle it when you have to cancel a date because a partner is sick, or when you have established agreements about overnight stays?
That is such a vital point. The way someone reacts to a small boundary early on is a direct preview of how they'll treat your life later. In E&M, my time is not an open field where anyone can pitch a tent whenever they feel like it. I have a marriage, I have a job, I have pets, I have a life, and I have other commitments. If a girl gets passive aggressive because I didn't reply during my date night with you, she's showing me that she views my existing relationship as an inconvenience or an obstacle to overcome rather than a reality she has to respect. And if you don't respect my marriage or my existing agreements, you don't get access to me. Period. The early app stage is where you demonstrate whether you have the emotional maturity to exist in a multi-partner dynamic without causing absolute chaos.
Respecting boundaries isn't just good manners. If you're going to function in these spaces, you have to be able to hear "not tonight" without turning it into a crisis.
And that's what I'm watching for. If something this small already turns into a fight, I don't want to find out what happens when we're dealing with something actually complicated.
So, if someone's driving home right now or standing in Target buying conditioner, what do we actually want them to walk away with from this whole time?
Read the damn profile. Treat the person behind it like a real human being, not an app character. Believe what they write and stop trying to negotiate people out of their stated boundaries.
Mine would be that a match is curiosity, not access. Matching with someone just means you unlocked a conversation. It doesn't mean they owe you nude photos, immediate text replies, or a date. You still have to build the connection step by step.
And be transparent about what you actually want up front. If you just want casual sex, say that. There are plenty of people who want casual sex too. Stop pretending you want a deep emotional connection just to land a date. And stop hiding your real situation because you're scared of rejection.
No unsolicited photos.
No.
The blueberry muffin woman has suffered enough.
She really has. And finally, flirt with people, not at them. Pay attention to whether they're hitting the ball back over the net. If they pull back, don't double down and send 6 more texts. Give them space to meet you halfway.
That's the whole episode right there. Can you at least say hello first? Give someone the room to be a real human being before you turn them into an idea in your head.
If you both want to go from 0 to 60 on minute 1 because the vibe is electric, fantastic. Go wild.
Yes.
Just make sure you're both actually in the car before you stomp on the gas pedal.
And nobody got left behind in the coffee shop.
With the muffin.
She's living a quiet, peaceful life now.
I'm Lizzie.
And I'm Nash.
This has been Why Is It So Hard? We want your stories, the messy ones, the funny ones, the I can't believe I said that out loud ones, the surprisingly sweet acceptance moments, the family meltdowns, the friend breakups, the workplace wins. Send them. Email lizzieandnash@gmail.com. That's LIZZIEANDNASH@gmail.com. Or leave us a voicemail at 814-900-4273.
If you want to remain anonymous, we'll protect you. Don't worry. But remember, your mess helps other people feel normal. But you actually still may be normal. Anyway, we'll catch you guys next time.
Bye.
Yes.